Oh, hi there, Ezra Levant here again. We landed in Amsterdam. We drove down to The Hague, which is the capital city of the Netherlands. And I'm standing in front of a building called the Tweede Kamer, which is a Dutch way of saying the second house, the second chamber. This is their parliament. This is where Geert Wilders has been a member of parliament for years, toiling away in obscurity. And frankly, I never thought in a million years he would actually win the Dutch elections. And I'm not sure if he thought he would too. Obviously, he hoped he would, and he was working for that result. But it was like a thunderclap. And even he seemed surprised by the massive result. Look at this short video he tweeted on election night. I think he was truly startled by the results. Take a look. Well, the thing is, because of their electoral system, I think it's a kind of proportional representation. There are a ton of little parties here. It's not like our Canadian first past the post system that really weeds out small parties like the Green Party or the People's Party. Here, every faction has its representation. So the idea of one party getting an absolute majority in the Tweede Kamer is extremely unlikely. Now, Geert Wilders has by far the largest party, but he needs to make a coalition with other parties. We're going to see Geert Wilders tonight. We're staying at a hotel right across from a restaurant where he's having a meeting with people who are against open borders migration, or asylum seekers as they're called here. I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to catch up with him. I haven't talked to him in a few years since I interviewed him here in the Tweede Kamer. It's an interesting building. It's unusual architecture. It is extremely high security. Even coming here, you can see these enormous steel barriers. There's a police vehicle here. I know that because I was in there, and there was a security threat to Geert Wilders when I was here last time, and he was in a special room that was guarded. The man lives under 24/7 guards. In fact, we were at the hotel. We put our stuff down. We were only in the Netherlands for 25 hours, if you can believe it. It's a real whistle-stop tour. So we put our stuff in the hotel, had a quick shower because the night flight. We scoped out the restaurant where the meeting's going to be, and then we came down here to the Tweede Kamer. Even as we were leaving the hotel, it dawned on me there was an enormous number of security there, and it's not a fancy hotel. It's a fairly rundown hotel, actually, but all these security. I was like, what's this security for? They asked for a room key. They were there securing the venue because Geert Wilders is coming. And then as we were leaving, a bunch of police arrived and were liaising with the security. And it reminded me that Geert Wilders moves with about 10 special Secret Service cops at all times. And think about that. They probably have 3 shifts a day, right? So, and then they have replacements and people on vacation, and you have command centers, and you have advanced teams like we saw there today. There's got to be 50 people working full time just protecting Geert Wilders from death threats. And it's not an idle thing. I don't know if you know the name Theo van Gogh. It's pronounced slightly different with the proper Dutch pronunciation. I'm not going to try. He was, I think, the great-grandson or a descendant of Vincent van Gogh, the famous Dutch painter and artist. He was a filmmaker who, with Ayaan Hirsi Ali, made a film criticizing the role of women in Islam. The movie was called Submission. He was murdered. He was assassinated. And Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who was born in Somalia, rebelled against Islam, came to Holland, actually sat in Parliament. Take a look at some of these guys just walking by. And then there's some more armed police over there. Sorry, I was just mid-story, but would you agree with me? This is a heavily armed, heavily guarded area. Anyway, back to the story about Theo van Gogh, assassinated, and Ayaan Hirsi Ali, who was an MP here as well, eventually left the country in large part because of security threats. That's not the only one. There was a politician here in the Netherlands named Pim Fortuyn, and he would describe himself as flamboyantly gay. He would drive around in a limousine with a little lapdog, and he was very, very gay. That was part of his political identity. And that's what made him critical of Islam, because one of the core tenets of Islam is sexual modesty. Obviously, homosexuality is punishable by death. And there's other issues as well, like women having to be covered, women not being able to go out without a guardian or a husband or a father. And so Pim Fortuyn was assassinated, Theo van Gogh was assassinated, and so now Geert Wilders himself has a serious retinue of bodyguards at all times. And like I say, when I was visiting here years ago, there was a security threat. Apparently, one of his bodyguards tipped off someone about his planned whereabouts, and that put the whole place under lockdown. My interview with him was almost canceled, and we had to have it in a high security room. That's what life is like when you criticize Islam. And it's one of the reasons why across the West people are afraid. I think back a few days ago when Tommy Robinson in the United Kingdom was arrested by police just for being there. He was there at the March Against Anti-Semitism in the streets of London, and the police just picked him up and carted him off and pepper sprayed him in the face for good measure. And they did that because they knew there would not be riots. They knew there would not be bombings. Whereas people who walk the streets of London with extremely anti-Semitic jihadist comments, the police don't dare touch them because they know there would quite likely be a violent reaction. So the actual fear of murder is very real. And I think far more pervasive, especially in places like Canada, is the fear of being called racist itself. I've told you before about the city of Rotherham in the United Kingdom, city of about 250,000 people, where 1,400 young women were raped. In a city of 250,000, 1,400 were raped, and not just once, they were raped again and again by what are called rape gangs or grooming gangs. And this was over a course of years. And this was almost immediately known to people in Rotherham, to social workers, to police, to emergency rooms and hospitals, to parents, to the media, to politicians. But everyone kept it a secret. No one talked about it because everyone was afraid of being called racist. And again, that's not my theory. There was a commission of inquiry into how did 1,400 girls get raped in a town the size of Rotherham. And again, everyone said they were afraid of being called racist if they spoke out about it. So imagine the fear of being called racist, plus the fear of actually being assassinated. Geert Wilders has stood up to both of those fears for really 2 decades. In constant physical danger and obviously politically denounced, he was prosecuted by the Dutch prosecutors. He was charged with crimes for insulting Islam. In the end, he appealed and won those, but not before going through years of persecution at the hands of the government, a government that he now is poised to lead, if he can. Because that's one of the most interesting things about the Netherlands, is until recently it was governed by a absolute role model World Economic Forum young leader, Mark Rutte, sort of like Justin Trudeau in Canada, sort of like Leo Varadkar in Ireland, just a total globalist, global warming enthusiast, feminist, anti-industrialist, open borders extremist. For the Netherlands to go from Mark Rutte to Geert Wilders is whiplash. And it's not just whiplash, so much turns on it. And that's why the political establishment would do anything it can to deny Geert Wilders his electoral win. It's one of the things I want to talk to him about tonight, when hopefully we see him at that restaurant we scoped out earlier in the day. Hey, I just want to practice my Dutch with you one time. We're in an interesting place downtown. You can see the Nationale Bibliotheek. I'm pronouncing that wrong, of course. You surely can guess that means the National Library. It's celebrating 225 years. These things are easy to read. There's the Kinderboeken Museum. My guess is that means the Museum of Children's Books. And there's the Literature Museum. Do you see that up there? And then there's a word I've been practicing over and over and over again because you do not want to say this wrong. The Nederlands Institute for Kunstgeschiedenis. My friends, you do not want to mispronounce that word. All right, I'll come back to you with more from the heart of the Netherlands here in The Hague. All of my reports in this very interesting place, go to thetruthaboutwilders.com, and that's spelt with a W. The Truth About Wilders is how it would be spelled. And I'll have my old interview with him from a few years ago, and I'll have all my reporting from this whistle-stop tour. So come back to see more updates at thetruthaboutvilders.com.